Valentina Castellani, chairman of Quinn Studios Entertainment in Los Angeles. Valentina as a person is a very humble person, you know. I wasn't born as a producer. My story is quite peculiar and probably not the most happy in the sense that my husband, the son of Anthony Quinn, died 10 years ago, and he was an award-winning actor and the son of Anthony Quinn, and already was starting to do production and stuff. And when he died, I thought that we needed something inspirational for our kids, and I decided to shoot a TV series on cycling, which was his passion. And since then, just like I always say, is like in Harry Potter, is the one that chooses the wizard. The role of a producer came to me, and in the moment it came to me, I found a new key of expression. And since then, I produced films that were in the run for an Academy Award and Golden Globe, and social impact documentaries about peace in the Middle East, the Native Americans, TV series, and so on. Quinn Studios Entertainment is my Fempire. Media, entertainment, a film is the most impactful platform to convey an idea nowadays. What a film can do and inspire people and provoking a change in society is unique nowadays. A film convey an idea through visions and emotions. Therefore, it comes to the heart of people right away, much more than politics, economics. Let's see the success of many documentaries as well as film nowadays that truly impacted the youth in an incredible way around the world. 5 years ago, a young director came to me, to our studios in Los Angeles, and asked me to produce a documentary about peace in the Middle East. And at the time I thought I wasn't the right person because I wasn't from Israel or Palestine, and he wanted to focus on the situation around the Temple Mountain. And I thought it wasn't my narrative at first, but then it came to me that all my best win in life came from a state of incredible uncomfortability, where I had to stretch beyond my limits to really embrace and understand the subject. And so I decided to embark in that documentary. It was my first documentary, and we shot with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the Pope, and on and on. But I want to tell you one story, because at first we didn't have any budget in the film and no celebrity. The documentary is a very different media from a feature film. And at the time, I read that Pope Francis was in Jerusalem and invited the President Shimon Peres and President Mahmoud Abbas to pray together at the Vatican. And I thought, that's it. That's how the documentary should start. But of course, who could grant me the permit to shoot such an exceptional historical moment? So I recovered to my emotional connection to this topic, and I Googled the Pope. Yes, I always say to the journalists, I Googled the Vatican and found out that there were 30 minutes in which the Vatican was taking phone calls. So from Los Angeles, I called at my 3 a.m. in the morning, and I started to speak with the nun. And it came obvious to me that no matter my title, credits, status, etc., was completely irrelevant to her. Eventually, she passed me to the director of the press office, with which I started what I call my 10 nights confession. In fact, every night at 3 a.m., this father would call me, and we would start on a long discussion that was never about the film, but more about who I was as a woman, my choices, my vision, myself as a mother, as a businesswoman. And I thought it was very interesting, very personal. After 10 days, we were 3 days away from this historical moment, shooting at the Vatican with the two presidents. And I said, Father Lombardi, what are your decisions? We are 3 days away from the event. And he said, fine, you're going to be the only one filming at the Vatican. And there we were 3 days later, filming in the Vatican garden with Pope Francis and President Shimon Peres and President Mahmoud Abbas praying together. And why do I tell you this story? Because I think that connection really comes from emotions, at the human level, to then spread globally. And that's something that a film, a documentary, can really do through visions and emotion and spread all over the world in an instant. The documentary won 13 international awards, and because also of the award at US Congress that we won and the screening at the US Congress, 2 new bills of rights were created in the protection of the minorities. So that's the power of a film nowadays. Toughest challenges are never outside, I think, as much as inside. We have a vision as filmmakers of something we want to achieve, and we never really, know how then transmit it into camera until we see the result. Challenging moment was, I'm in the process of shooting a documentary with the Native Americans. No internet, 30 degrees below zero. So any camera, any electronic equipment wasn't working. After 3 minutes, it would get frozen and we have to put the cameras back inside the car and heat it up with scarves, with the heater, everything. So I said, oh my God, we're losing it, but there is always a thread of hope when you're filming. And I said, let's stay 1 extra day. Most of the time, the most challenging moments are also the most iconic, the most brilliant in a shoot. And when you see it on camera, you don't see the challenge, you see the beauty. I think it's about what these amazing leaders tells you as much as who they are and how do you feel and be and how much you get transformed by being in their presence. Now that is something. You don't need for a person, a leader like His Holiness the Dalai Lama to tell you much. And of course I had amazing conversation with this amazingly enlightened human being. But the way he is in his life, the way he is in your presence is of such quality, such enlightened energy that you can't avoid by changing, feeling inspired, feeling affected by that, and it remains with you. Another amazing figure that I met right before he died, so I feel very blessed, was Dr. Maher Atou. And Dr. Maher Atou was originally Egyptian, and he was a world diplomat that was used many times in difficult moments of turmoil in the Middle East to create peace between either Europe and the Middle East, etc. And it was also a man full of humor, and it gave me so much to meet him. It was a Muslim person, and yet so enlightened, so democratic, such a visionary. I will never forget that I was invited to speak at a interfaith global conference that was happening in Los Angeles, and there was a main figure from the Catholic Christian world, and one from the Jewish world, and then there was Dr. Maher Atou and I, myself, just as a international awarded filmmaker. And each of these figures started their conversation explaining the values, the ethics, the principles of their religions and stuff. And then it came the time of Dr. Maher Atou, that in front of 3,000 people said, well, principles, ethics, but for me the big problem is to keep the youth 20 minutes off of Facebook. And I see this insane audience of incredible figures laughing. And that was the power of Dr. Maher too, that had a sense of humor, and yet it was so touching. He had the attention of everybody by that moment, and understanding even how life works. You know, it's not necessarily always about principle, but more as creating attention with the youth, creating bondage with the youth. Yes. Would give this advice to women. You know, we're living in a world that is very centered on the ego or the brain, let's say, but emotional intelligence is being the quality most admired and chosen, even in top companies such as Google. More and more people get tested through emotional intelligence rather than IQ. And so I would say, in that sense, emotional intelligence is what women have ingrained inside. So women has a facility to enter that kind of world, and it is been discovered that emotional intelligence is what leads more in any crisis, because emotional intelligence, which is an attitude of women, a particular setup of women, is what makes you think outside the box. So in a crisis, using emotional intelligence, which is what women adopt naturally, is what make you find a solution out of the box and out of a crisis. So I would advise all women to not try to become men necessarily, and not that there is anything bad about it, but to embrace their quality and think and work from the heart. We have to understand that it's not just about my position or another woman's position, but really in terms of opening the doors to many other young women and feel that this is possible. I mean, and we have some outstanding young women that already are doing so much. Malala is one of them, and so many others in the world, even in other professions, you know, whether they are creative professions or political, economical, or cultural professions. I think the point is really to show youth and young girls really that there is so much space and so much that can be done. To create a point of reflection or inspiration for people. And it's not necessarily, is it just women, is it just men? We all resonate in our heart pretty much the same as humanity. And there are so many ways to tell a story. So I feel particularly proud to be with you at the magazine and enhance a little bit of what women do.